to trend ride my way to the top. So I heard that Asmongold got banned off of Twitch. Naturally, I was late to the game by about 12 hours because I never watch his Twitch channel. I think watching streaming gaming is pretty silly at times. I've attempted to. It's just not my cup of tea. Like I'm older than him by like 3 years. I believe he's 35. I'm 38. I've been watching his material because honestly, he's a smart guy. Many contacts. He has a lot of really interesting things and insights that he spits off. His delivery is entertaining at times. I've also consumed a lot of videos through his reaction videos that I probably otherwise wouldn't have found myself, some of which have been pretty entertaining. And the appeal of reaction streamers is in an engagement of a conversation. Like sometimes you may not have an outlet to actually bounce ideas off of, but having someone there to stimulate anything inside your brain, it's kind of a useful thing. And I've appreciated what Asmongold does in this department. I've even looked at his PCs. Well, I'm probably going to end up building my own here pretty soon. I think the advent of pre-built companies is very interesting, and he's obviously done very well for himself, so one can't hate. But a lot of people are hating at the moment and accusing him of hate speech. And what is hate speech? Why was he banned off of Twitch? Well, I'm catching myself up here, and I want to have a discussion about whether or not he should have been banned off of Twitch, and whether or not only was it wrong, like should he have been banned for what he said? You know, is it like verboten entirely to speak one's mind in this way? Even if, like, what if he was playing a character, right? Like, what if it was a fiction? What if what he was saying really wasn't representative of his real opinions? Let's kind of spin this a number of ways before we dig into stuff. Like, why should he have been banned for stating his opinions, even if the reasons for why he give them, like why he feels this way, are not necessarily logically accurate? And that's my main sticking point with what Asmongold said, was not what he said, but the reasons he gave to support his argument. I don't really feel like hold water. Are y'all kids familiar with that term? Like the idea that an argument holds water? Well, it means that your argument has some concreteness to it. That, like, and one of the problems with like kids not knowing about like what logic is nowadays, generally speaking, Asmongold has a fun way of attempting to demonstrate his own mastery of logic by at times, attempting to spin things in creative ways. But here, I think he would benefit from chilling out a little bit, because my default stance with that whole situation is that I want the fighting to stop, right? Like, America was founded on domination culture, right? Like, America was brought into being by guns, people taking over other people's shit. And I don't think that if you really feel that your own culture is superior to another's culture, that the correct argument for demonstrating this dominance is to wipe them out. I don't think that's it. That ain't it, chief, as the kids say. You're gonna hear me say stuff relative to my own age, because y'all motherfuckers make me feel old. Trying to catch up in life. There's a lot I haven't done. My grandmother just died 3 years ago. My mother died of COVID-19. I haven't had a girlfriend for very long at any ever given moment in my life, nor has it ever been a very big priority, although I feel like it's a biological desire that emerges very clearly. I don't want to have that shit until I'm ready, right? Like on a certain number of levels. And one of my life goals is to make a game in completion, one that is fun enough that I would want to play it, right? I've played enough games at this point. I've written enough code at this point. I've beaten games that Asmongold has not yet beaten. If we want to apply that kind of logic, then I don't think that he deserves to be a millionaire, because he has not beaten Chrono Trigger. He has not beaten Super Metroid. There's a third one off the top. I can't think of it. But the point being is that there's a number of critical titles that are, in my opinion, key in this video game education. and he has not taken those classes yet. Look at me. Welcome to Evil Dojo. I'm your host, the ghost with the most gnosis. My fucked up teeth demonstrate my halitosis. Stink breath, but sick flow. If you didn't already know, now you already know this. So, I'm like 90 minutes south of you, dude. We should probably hang out sometime. I can't say that I've gotten blood on the wall for wiping my bloody teeth on the walls yet, but I might have been close. Certainly understand the vibe. I understand the feel. I kind of know what it's like. So I hope you react to this and kind of reach out. Not trying to ride like that, but at the same time, you seem like a cool dude. I feel like, we could probably lift each other's spirits because, one of the reasons that I have thrown myself so hard into my game development is that I'm sad, I'm really fucking sad about my grandmother dying. I also feel sad that all of this stuff has happened and I'm not yet at a point where I feel like I should be at for my age and my experience, I'm trying to play catch up. I'm literally trying to force the universe into what I feel like is the proper. Like, have you ever felt like things are so out of whack that everything is just falling apart and there's no fixing it and there's no going back and there's nothing we can do to change anything? I certainly understand that feeling. I've been in positions where I've had that little control over what's happening to not only me, but my what appeared to be my future. It's only because of certain critical key decisions that I've made at certain right times. But, going back on things, it's like, well, I could have done things better if I had really understood what it means to operate this thing called a human being. And I know things now that, if I'm to have kids, I would definitely want to pass on to them knowledge wise. If I have to put a gun to their head to get them to properly take care of their teeth, because I know I did not. And it only got worse. And a lot of it's related to depression, lifelong depression. And that's for a lot of different reasons, and I'm not going to get into this video. But 11 minutes in. Okay. We're doing good. So why did Asmon get banned, right? Who is Asmongold? Why do we care? What are the implications on free speech? He's already apologized. He's already written a tweet. He almost never tweets. Like, there's significant time duration between August 28th and October 14th. Looking back on it, I was way too much of an asshole about the Palestine thing. My bad. Of course, no one deserves to have their life destroyed, even if they do things or have views I find regressive. You guys deserve more than me saying stupid shit like this. I'll do better. So, I'm going to play the clip that I found about what he said. It's basically like directly taken out. I'll mute it so that I don't get banned on YouTube because I'm not trying to promote, quote, hate speech. But it's also important in the context of the discussion of why he was banned and whether or not he should have banned, or in addition to that, like even outside of the context of should he have been banned, was what he said logically correct? Like, people are allowed to have their own opinions, but is it a good opinion or not? And that's centered around the logic behind the opinion, right? People feel certain ways about certain groups of people for reasons that are often the results of stereotypes. It's a result of a lack of ingestion of information. You haven't taken a big enough sample size in order to get an accurate view of the situation. As an example of this, let's think about certain associations with certain groups of people. Like, why is it that this group of people is seen to prefer a certain type of food? Well, it's probably because it's food from their own culture. Why are certain things associated with certain groups of people? Well, it's probably because of socioeconomic factors and geographic concerns, right? Like, I'm speaking in very clear generalities. I'm talking about one group of people, things become trickier because you don't want to step on anyone's toes, especially if you personally don't really have a strong opinion about it one way or another, other than the fact that I don't want to see any more fighting. I don't think that the perpetuation of dominator culture is good for the lifespan of the human race, but that's just me. So I'm going to mute this in the video probably, but I'm going to go ahead and play it. This is what Asmon said that got him banned. I don't know if it's a permanent ban. I don't know if it's a temporary ban or not, but when a millionaire video game streamer gets banned off of the world's biggest game streaming platform for, quote, hate speech or violation of Twitch community guidelines, rather, I think it's appropriate to do a deep dive analysis on the situation, throw my 2 cents out there, and try to put things into context, because people are very reactionary. And as someone who has literally tutored hundreds of students in computer science, logic, application development, web development, embedded development, penetration testing, security, all of these things, much to my haters' dismay, that these things are actually true, and that they try to throw it in my face that, oh, you're not this or you're not that. No, I actually did those things. That's actually part of my background. Perhaps I can give some guidance on the situation.
Now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing.
So, logical fallacy, right? And while, sure, one can make a pretty good argument that most of the people in the area are probably Muslim, one should not conflate being a Palestinian with being a Muslim, and vice versa. However, a lot of Muslim people probably stand with Palestine in this front, right? Like, I think it's an important distinction to make going forward, because there is a direct parallel in American culture with this kind of whole idea that, like, oh, this religion has this in its sacred texts, therefore all people who follow this religion must follow the sacred texts verbatim, right? And I don't think that's how it works, because I certainly know that there are plenty of Christians who break Christian laws all the time. And while it's kind of baked into the religion that, yeah, you can do this and get forgiven, It's like, the idea of presenting yourself as a quote good Christian. It's kind of like an illusion. It's like one of the things that's always been appealing about Satanism, Levian Satanism in particular, is the whole recognition that religion is a show. It's a fabrication. It's a play. It's a symphony designed to evoke feelings of esotericness and spirituality when the reality is it's all woo woo. It's all hand wavy. And having this baked into the laws, and it's actually one of the memes that I've been pushing lately on IRC, is that anyone who takes the writings of religious texts verbatim and seriously as if they are not a metaphor are autistic. Period. End of discussion. I've been studying these things for a long time, and I've come to the conclusion that these are, the episode of South Park about religion was 100% correct. Like, you're going to end up crapping out of your mouths because you're taking this stuff too seriously. So that's kind of what just happened with Asmon, right? Is that he just shat out his mouth some stuff, probably because he's got like some right wing leanings. He's a bit of a warmonger. I mean, he's a World of Warcraft veteran, for fuck's sake. He is part of, like, as gaming culture. And when I say gaming culture, this is part of the problem, is that when I use the words gaming culture, what do you think of? Do you think that gaming culture is exclusive to PC gaming with modern GPU equipment so you can play like the highest graphics games and all of that shit? That's not what I think of when I think of gaming culture. But some people out there would probably think that when I use those two words together, right? So the whole point there is that everyone's got a different definition of what gaming culture is. Because I use the words gaming culture does not mean that I'm referring to the same gaming culture that you're thinking of when I use those words. So hold on to that idea because it applies directly here. So understanding that just because someone uses words does not mean that they are referring to the same idea that you're thinking of when you hear the words. From a computer science perspective, you could think of it like two programs written in Python that have two dictionaries that are named the same thing, but they have different contents. Or you have a dictionary and they all have the same keys, but the values for the keys are different. It would be like someone having like a British dictionary and someone having, Webster's American English dictionary, and putting them side by side and trying to like take a look at the differences. You're going to get a little bit of subtleness. And in many cases, most people have the same dictionaries, and so most of the time can be understood. But when we get into the domain of like abstract concepts and larger, broader groups of people and concepts and ideas, such as gaming culture, right? Because I'm a gamer from like 1989. I was born in 86, but my first game was Super Mario Brothers on the NES, a game that I'm able to generally speedrun in about 6 minutes, which is not that great, but like it's a lot faster than most people can do. And it's the only game I'm able to really speedrun, but it's also one of the games that really woke me up. I awakened. It was the most liberating, freeing mental experience. And I still feel very similar about games, especially games that require a controller. Um, I wish my game required a controller right now. I have to work on gamepad input support and all that stuff. But gaming culture in the context here to suggest that when we use the words Islamic culture, or when we associate Islamic culture with Palestinian people, or when we conflate one for the other, we're making missteps in logic when you're thinking about the situation. Not to mention the reasoning behind why we should do X to Y does not follow for very specific reasons. And he addresses this in his tweet. No one deserves to have their life destroyed, even if they do things or have views I find regressive. And see, this is still kind of like a half-assed apology, right? Because even if they do things or have views I find regressive. So he's basically saying the Palestinians do things or have views he finds regressive. Now, one of the things that I'm trying to point at is we have multiple logical missteps here. Not all Palestinians are Muslims, and not all Muslims are Palestinians, although both probably stand with each other, as I said before. Of course, Palestinians don't deserve to have their lives destroyed, nor do Muslims. But it's important to note that, like, the discussion of whether or not the Palestinians are Muslim shouldn't even be a part of the discussion, period. Their religion has nothing to do with why this situation is happening over there. Like, can we not agree, Asmon, that what happened last year was incredibly fucked up? Bombing a music festival? Jesus Christ. If anything, you should feel really bad for the people of that region for being under the thumb of terrorist leadership, because they didn't choose this. They didn't choose to get bombed. You know, they didn't choose to be born in this area and have no means of escape. They didn't choose to get boxed in. They're not choosing to be crushed. And we deserve more than you not only saying stupid shit like that, but also being more thoughtful about your opinions before you spout them online. I'm very careful to reason through things before I make a final decision on how I feel about something. A lot of people online know this about me. I ask questions, I challenge viewpoints in an effort to help define my own. And oftentimes, when I don't know something, I straight up say I don't know it, from a technical perspective, philosophical, ethical, feeling, how I feel about food, whatever. Like, if I don't know or I haven't decided, I'm not going to feel pressure to make a decision just to satisfy someone's demands for an answer. But in this case, you know, my opinions on that whole situation, I decided a long time ago, and they haven't changed. And so I find it really shocking that for all of the things that I've listened to Asmon say that have been correct, logical, and thoughtful, this was not one of them.
And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many.
So he's talking about Hamas, right? Hamas is the organization that essentially controls the region. They are not Palestine. They are not Palestinians. They are a completely separate group of people. So it's important to make the distinction that the people that we're trying to eliminate is Hamas, and the way that Israel is going about doing it is increasingly wanton, reckless, with no give a fuck for any individuals in the the scene that might be innocent. Like, even if you had like one innocent and 100 people, would it not be worth the humanitarian effort to allow dissidents and dissenters to, to give them an opportunity to escape, to flee the region safely before any sort of action is taken? Should the people of a country be punished for the crimes of its leaders? Is this what you would want for America? For all of the things that we've done to the world, for all of the brutality, for all of the senseless destruction and violence? Is that what you want for us? It sounds like projection. This sounds like part of Asmon's tendency to self-destruction, which certainly most of us are guilty of in one way or another. But I don't know. I feel the energy, and I just kind of, I know that his mom died recently too. So, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to live in a house with roaches. We've got roaches here right now. I know, but also, if you've ever lived in Texas long enough, you know that roaches become more like active when it rains, especially these giant this variant we have called water bugs. Ugh, they're fucking, everything is bigger in Texas, by the way, like everything, including the flies, the mosquitoes, the roaches, fucking everything.
Many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing.
He's not wrong. But he's really talking about Hamas.
That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture.
But see, who he means to be talking about is Hamas again. But he has conflated the military terrorist leadership with the people of the region, which again is another logical misstep. You shouldn't want to kill them because they have certain things in their religion that you disagree with. You should not conflate the innocent civilians of the region with the decisions of its leadership. You wouldn't want to do that to the American people. You wouldn't want to do that to yourself.
That is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Now, having looked at Islam enough recently, I can't really say that. Why, I do love bacon. I do love marijuana. I can't say that, like, I find that much disagreeable. I think the no alcohol thing is really based. It really says no intoxicants, but a lot of people use this to mean drinking. But I want to get back to that whole discussion about like there's a lot in the Bible that everyday Christians in America and other parts of the world are not perfect about. There's a lot in the Bible that's ancient and old and essentially deprecated, no longer really matters or applies. Part of the whole reason of Jesus coming into being was to free man from Jewish law. the Torah has a lot of rules in it, and there's no pork eating either, and you have all of this other stuff. And now this is to say, is a Jewish person gonna die if they eat pork? Not necessarily. Do all Jewish people pray to God for forgiveness after they eat pork? Do all Islams when they drink or smoke or break, do something that otherwise is in violation of their commandments? I don't think so. I don't think that most adherents of any religion are perfect about it. So I wouldn't want to blanket that because there is a thing called Sharia law, that all of the people of a region are adherents to it, nor would I want to conflate the zealous leaders of a religion and its most strict adherents with everyday practitioners who may or may not feel one way or another about something. I mean, yeah, I don't agree with this, the killing of people for being gay. I don't agree with the killing of people for a lot of the things that would be considered petty in the West that might be done in a Middle Eastern country. They think the stereotype growing up was that you get your hand cut off if you get caught stealing, for instance, right? I don't agree with that, obviously. Does that mean that I think that it's inferior? No, I think it's different. I think that if someone were born in a different part of the world and go through the cultural upbringings and experiences of that region, and then they get access to the internet and are able to kind of take in a broader view of how their own society fits into the greater context of the world, they might be able to form an educated opinion. But Asmon himself has admitted he's not a programmer. So what's to, suggest to anyone that he's using any modicum of logic here? Even the way he talks is very emotional. Should he be banned for it?
It is that simple. No, I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care. I don't support them.
He does not support the Palestinian people. So, was this hate speech? Twitch aims to be a place where everyone can come together and shared community experiences. This vision threatened when people experience harmful rhetoric and abuse on Twitch, which is not preferred behavior as motivated by hatred, prejudice, or intolerance, including behavior that promotes or encourages discrimination, denigration, harassment, or violence based on the following protected characteristics: race, ethnicity, color, caste, national origin, immigration status, religion, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, serious medical condition, and veteran status. We also provide certain protections for age, which are expressly noted in the examples. We define protected groups as a subset of the population with a shared protected characteristic. Every Twitch user falls into multiple of these protected groups. Twitch affords every user globally equal protections under this policy. For example, regardless of your intent, you may not promote, glorify, threaten, or advocate violence, physical harm, or death against individuals or groups on the basis of a protected characteristic. There's a good argument for that one. Use hateful slurs, either targeted or directed towards another individual. Now, he wasn't slurring. Post, upload hateful imagery. imagery that dehumanize or perpetuate negative stereotypes. Yeah, this yeah, we're getting multiple hits here. Wow, you can get banned on Twitch for getting someone's pronouns wrong and then repeatedly doing that, which makes sense because that would be harassment. Man, they were pretty thorough here. Yeah. If I was able to hit these bullet points, then certainly moderators at Twitch in collusion all agreed on this. That fucking sucks. But maybe you shouldn't be talking so much shit, bitch.